The dwarves have many secrets they hold on to quite dearly. Their skill in engineering is almost without equal. Yet in the Empire, the Dwarven Engineers Guild does occasionally share some of their secrets with the Empire for the good of all, primarily when it comes to weapons and machines. But there is one thing they are keen to never share, and that is the secret of rune magic or rune smithing. This secret art seems to be only known to very few dwarves, known as rune smiths. Despite not having any natural magical talent of their own, through this art the dwarves are able to achieve miraculous wonders, weapons that glow with flame, armor that never rusts or decays, and even stranger effects used to guard their homes and vaults. All this with none of the drawbacks human wizards must endure as they bend and use the winds. In some ways, it is much safer and far more potent than human enchantments, or even elven. Some human scholars suggest that somehow this art is able to do this by taking the essence of the winds and transplanting them into a stable form. Rather than this cause the winds to stagnate, this method keeps the magic in some sort of stasis. More than that, I fear we will never know. The runesmiths dwindle as time marches on, and they all state quite clearly that this art is for dwarven hands only. Perhaps one day this will change. I only hope it happens before the art is lost forever. This is Red Moon Roleplaying. It certainly has been a journey that none of you were quite expecting. Traversing through the Middle Mountains, finding an abandoned dwarven hold, infiltrating said hold. Perhaps none of you thought just a few days ago that this is how this particular venture would end. But here you are, making your way through secret dwarven tunnels, carefully sneaking past rat men. Skaven, a word you maybe haven't used, but at this point might be finding yourselves thinking of. That is, after all, what they were supposed to be called in stories. Not just beast men, but something quite different. You have made interesting progress through the ruined hold of Carrick Skiag. You have, you think, aided some prisoners, maybe started something that will help some of them, although you do not know now how that will end, having decided to leave them to their own devices. On one hand, that might have been a detriment, but on the other hand, a benefit. Hard to tell sometimes in these situations where we have to make choices on the fly. You have seen things that are confusing. The nature of these creatures seeming to be having some sort of dispute. It seeming that the attack on the picket was not some coordinated assault, but actually a game of daggers in the dark, at least among these creatures. And strange mechanisms, strange technology, and even humans every now and again being seen in this place, both as prisoners, but also in some cases walking around. Still, you have decided to keep focused on one mission and one mission alone, to try and find this leader, warlord, whatever they are, or find their weapon and destroy both, if not one or the other. And this has led you to the top of this abandoned hold. At least you think the top. You are just about ready to exit the dwarven tunnel. You know that as soon as you do this, you will not be able to get back in, not without a dwarf present. A one-way trip. Once you're out, you will have to resort to more traditional methods of stealth, Kruger Hoffman. But maybe that's not so bad. How are you feeling before you exit?
Well, I'm, of course, on high alert, just in general, really always looking around me and making sure that everything in our surroundings is, well, if there's nothing out there that's going to jump us or, might be posing a threat. So, yes, I'm ill at ease. It's such a dangerous place we've found ourselves in, but I have to believe that what we're doing is the right thing, and that where we're headed, well, that through that we'll be able to make a real difference. So I just keep on going, keeping a good lookout for every step.
And what of you, Heinrich Schilf? An interesting place you find yourself in. There's been a few close calls, but yet, so far, you have managed to successfully infiltrate and neutralize any threats that have come in your path.
It's always a learning experience when you're dealing with a new enemy, but if there's one thing I've learned is that these rat folk, they are only formidable in the largest of numbers. And if we can control the pace of battle, if we can strike swiftly without getting bogged down in seas of rats, I think I like our odds.
They certainly have seemed good so far, but you, as you said, have managed to avoid the mass. How long will you be able to do that, especially when the guns start going off? You're not sure. What of you, Gurner Stark? A strange place. The winds of Ulgu are potent here. And yet, there's many strange things here as well, things you cannot explain, especially these strange machines and some of the weapons you've seen.
Well, the last thing that's happened to us, I am almost flabbergasted in a way. It felt for a time like they were so organized and that something big was coming our way. Everyone kept talking about how they were coming and the Yellow Fang were working for them and they were all going to make this big grand invasion, and I don't know what plan they had. Take over our part of the world somehow. But now they feel like they're just doing everything at a whim. They're fighting among themselves. One is going straight for one part of this place, for this tower, and it seems like it's just bickering in between the two. I feel like what we're doing now, by helping, whatever that assailant was that came to me in the night, by helping him and them, I can't help but think that we're helping them get more organized, or at least helping those that are intending to.
Certainly a risk. But what's the alternative? You could all just turn back and leave. Just leave all of this. You certainly wouldn't be helping anyone then. Does that benefit you? Or them? Very hard to tell.
Just imagining that weapon being unleashed on a city full of people. I couldn't allow that. Not in any regard. If we were down to protecting the Empire, this whole place would be wiped out. But now, I guess we'll have to settle with what we can get away with. If we can at least stop this weapon being used against us, I would consider that a big win. Yeah. And I'm trying not to get distracted by other happenings around me, my own feelings, and the ruins, the magnificence of the dwarven construction of this place, walls that can be seen through, how magic is somehow channeled into a static little thing. Yes, it's easy to get distracted.
It certainly is a magnificent mystery, and sadly, one the dwarves are very keen not to share. At least at this point in time in history. Maybe it will change one day. Maybe. For now, though, you're in position. At the opening. There is no glass here, Kruger, so you do not know what is on the other side. Only that this is finally a dead end. But you can hear noise, and you can just about see through a very, very, almost invisible seam the slightest hint of a green glow beyond this secret panel.
I'll point that out to the others. There's a green glow coming from behind there. And I can hear sounds. Something's there.
Could be parts of the weapon or the things that power it somehow. If we're that lucky, that would be a stupid amount of luck, obviously. You told me about the things that attacked you, yes? That green fire of some sort. If any of them are armed with that, it would be terribly effective in little, small, areas, cramped areas like this.
I shudder to think of that, and I look to Heinrich.
I'm not so thrilled about messing with things we don't understand, and this green rock, I think, is the most not understandable part of what we've been doing. Are we sure it's safe to handle or destroy? What happens if we mess with it?
Would you like to roll a law magic roll?
I could do that, yeah. I don't know if I can sense or see anything through this panel or what it would make sense to be. I've seen different forms of magic now, different forms of traces, how it can be contained and wielded. Yeah, alright, I'll see if I can just move a bit closer and get an idea of what this means. 62 over 42 then.
How about while you do that then, we also allow Heinrich to roll a law chaos roll. Not quite as effective, but let's let you roll it.
30 under 39.
Ooh, a bit better. Gonna warpstone. The problem is you haven't really studied it much. Why would you? It technically is frowned upon. You're not supposed to know about warpstone, other than that it is, concentrated magic. It's bad, because of course by concentrating the magic, normally it spoils in a way, becomes chaotic, and therefore is a very hazardous, dangerous substance known to, especially in wizards, cause great problems. Although you also would know that in some wizards' opinions, it is also rumoured to actually be extremely powerful and be able to boost magical ability at great cost. But beyond that, you don't know. You haven't seen it, and you're still not sure if that's what this is. I mean, it probably is, but again, you're just not really finding anything out. Meanwhile, Heinrich, again, you haven't learned about it, but you have heard it referenced in your own studies, although again, your studies are far less academic and more preventive. It is extremely dangerous. It is a sign of the arch-enemy. You must do your best to destroy it, preferably at a distance, and apparently handling it and being near it is an extremely bad idea. Your soul could be forfeit.
Well, then that I will communicate. Whether or not we destroy it, I know we shouldn't be near it when that happens. That's what we collapsed a castle messing with this stuff on another part of the world. But, and I'll turn to Garner, I also know it's not the greatest for folks who are attuned to things the way you are. Are we sure that's a risk we want to take on?
Well, what else can we do if they're using it to power such a weapon? It must be destroyed somehow. I mean, I know Hetri suggested perhaps blowing the place up with black powder. That's an alternative, if we can manage that from, I don't know, some sort of fuse. Get in to a safe distance while that burns down.
Oh, I might just do the trick. Very dangerous, though.
Dangerous either way. I can't make that decision. If there are things... Well, all I know that this person, or whatever he is, this Malice, if Malice is taken down, and at least most parts of the weapon is destroyed, even if we don't touch the warp stone, even perhaps if we separate from the rest of the weapon, they might not be able to, won't probably be able to reproduce it.
That is good thinking.
It's true.
Well, I suppose we'll have to try to head inside to see what's there.
Yeah.
So, is there a clear way in here? And is there any way to make sure that there's no one waiting to chop us with an axe as soon as we pass through?
Unfortunately, no. Other than opening the door and just maybe not immediately stepping out. But otherwise, no. You have to open a door and see what's on the other side. Obviously, you can try and listen. Try and time it. You aren't hearing any voices, and the sounds don't sound like the sounds of feet on the floor, but more the clanking sounds of mechanical things. Not that you've heard that often, but well, Null, obviously, is home to quite a few technological marvels these days. As a child, you did see sometimes things at the engineering school. This sounds a little bit like that did.
Interesting. Interesting indeed. Alright, well, I'll try to open it up then and try to do it as quietly as possible.
Luckily for you, that's not a problem, because the dwarven technology opens it seamlessly. And you find yourself staring immediately at a very large amount of crates, all stacked up. It seems you're right behind them. A stroke of luck, Kruger. You think this wall has opened up into an area already quite well covered. After all, the Ratmen don't know it's there.
Huh. Well, this is fortuitous. I'll point this out to the other two. We should have cover here. Let's head inside.
Some sort of storage space, perhaps. I try to glimpse through the crates or see if I can make out where that green glow came from.
Certainly. Everywhere. The entire massive chamber, as you step out into it, is full of a green glow.
Huh. What is this? What's making this?
Do you begin to try looking around?
Yeah, well, unless any of the others stop me, I'll move into the room, yeah.
I'll follow tight behind.
The room beyond is intense. Perhaps once this was several chambers, several rooms. No longer. You can see, looking above you, that there is evidence of vandalism, of destruction, as if a stone wall has been chiseled or blown away. Now, instead, this area encompasses an entire section of, well, you remember seeing this from the outside, the mountain itself. To your left are dozens of workbenches, crates, and Skaven. Some of the Skaven are dressed in rags and chained and are hauling things from lifts. Some of the lifts seem to come from inside the area, from down below. But you could immediately notice some sky to your immediate left. Is this where some of those lifts from the outside eventually come? You did, after all, stop off in the middle. You didn't ride them all the way to the top. These Skaven are hauling earth, metal, all sorts of things into crates and dragging them along. Other Skaven are dressed differently. They are armoured. They have strange things on their backs, strange devices on their heads. They are working on things. There are flashes of electricity. There is green glows. There are small explosions every now and again, steam coming from pipes as they work in some sort of, well, you don't know, a workshop? There's about 20 of them doing this, and another 20 doing all the hauling. To the immediate left, that is. Directly in front of you, there is some original stonework, which eventually leads to a great big lift that seems to go up. Looking up, you think once there was a floor, long destroyed. Instead, there is a new construction, some sort of flooring, but temporary flooring. It's held up by lots and lots of spokes and metal beams and connected to the wall. You're not sure what's up there, but that's possibly an entirely different floor. Although it's a lot smaller and doesn't cover everything. If you continue to look upwards, you can see the night sky. You are at the top of the mountain, clearly, and there is no ceiling here, just the stars and the clouds, although it's hard to see because of the green glow. And then you look to your right. The first thing that stands out is the monstrosity. You have seen cannons, of course. There was one at the picket line. And if you've been to Nuln, you'll have seen some of the impressive cannons they've made there. Some of them big as a horse. The ones they put on the Imperial steam tanks are certainly quite large. This is maybe 6 or 7 times larger than any cannon you have ever seen. It dominates the entire floor. It looks like a tapered metal cylinder made from bronze, roughly 180 feet long. The surface of the barrel of this cannon is etched with strange symbols. You do not recognize them. You think to yourself, especially you, Heinrich, you may have seen some of these symbols as you've been going through this place, but again, even your knowledge of Chaos Lore does not recognize these symbols. The thing is covered with a bewildering tangle of beams, pipes, chains, bolts, plates, and levers. At the peak is a strange sort of protrusion. It doesn't just end as a cannon does, there's more. They almost look claw-like. 2 giant metal claws, and they seem to be holding a gigantic green crystal. Doesn't look natural at all, it looks very irregular. The thing itself also has several hatches and little glass windows, all glowing green. At the base of this nightmare are 2 giant metal vats. You can see several rat men moving around here. They have strange equipment on, masks covering their faces with green goggles, and they're kind of watching things and maintaining things. There are more Skaven than taking to these giant vats, smaller vats, or crates. Hard to tell what these things are, but there seems to be a bit of a conveyor system going where they're loading up a liquid. As they pour the liquid, it is a green glowing colour. You've never seen anything like it. They seem to be collecting this from 7 to 10 smaller vats that are much further at the front of this cannon. These things have little pavilions where you can climb up and put things in. You see some Skaven doing this. They seem to be stirring this strange green glowing liquid. You can see some of it is leaking out of the vats and spilling onto the ground, slowly evaporating the ground. You can see there are literal holes in the floor here, and it seems some of the Skaven are just throwing slag or strange molten liquids into these holes. You have no idea what's beneath that. And, well, that is the sight you see. Strange workshops to the left, a nightmarish weapon to the right, strange things above you, implying there is one more floor, and in fact, as you look straight forward, you can see a lift that maybe goes up to that floor. And finally, just behind the great weapon, you think you can see a raised platform on that additional floor, and there's lots of cables and wires and strange pulleys that go up there. For some reason, there's something up there, but you can't quite see that from where you are. Quite a sight, Gurner Stark. What do you do?
I first just take a sharp inhale and say, by Sigmar, what mad and somehow possibly brilliant mind would think up such a contraption? Must have infinite little mechanisms going into it. What is that green substance they're pouring into it? And is that warp stone? That crystal? I somehow always imagined it to be grey or bluish. I don't know why I thought that.
You can certainly feel it on the air. No roll needed, Gurner. Magical energy. You can taste it, but it has a nasty acidic taste. It's everywhere, but especially to your right.
I look again towards the conveyor belts and the people in between, the rats that are armored that are making things? Are they using what's coming up? Are they processing it somehow?
Hard to tell. It's all quite manic. Doesn't really seem to be any organization. Some of them are just hacking things, some of them are hammering things. You see 2 of them are working on some sort of square thing. You don't know what's going on. Some of it, you do recognize a little, especially you, Heinrich. You know what weapons look like. You know what a sword looks like, a shield looks like, armor. Some seem to be making things out of it, although it's awful looking. As if someone doesn't understand what armor's supposed to be. Lots of spikes and odd angles. Not like anything you've seen from like a proper masterworker or a dwarven smith.
Well, that obviously lacks the elegance of dwarven or elven craftsmanship, but in my mind that only makes it more dangerous. Something that's built for brutality without any kind of safeguards. It'll either kill us on purpose or by accident. But it does look like the kind of thing we could break. And I would wager, at this point, looking to Kruger and then to Gerner and then pointing, if we can do something to bring down those claws or the bits under it, the whole thing will come crashing down in a way that's most satisfying.
It certainly would, Kruger. The only issue will be how you get up there. It is a very large thing, and that part is all the way up in the sky. Could you climb up there? You might be able to climb the cannon itself. Although, at that point, how many individuals would start seeing you climbing a giant cannon? You don't know. But, yes, if you could somehow get up there, you could do something, maybe. That could be good. Very dangerous, of course.
I nod to Heinrich. And I try to look around. Well, is there some way aside from climbing? Is there any way that I could somehow identify that might be able to take me there? And is climbing truly out of the options?
So, if you could get to the base undetected and start climbing undetected and make the climb, which will be one of the hardest climbs you've had to make, Kruger, then yes. Theoretically, you could get all the way to the top of this thing, damage it. It does occur to you then, how would you get back down without dying? You don't know, but maybe a quick rappel, or some sort of magical skill. Gerda does have magical skills, maybe that could help. You could certainly then do something. It would, of course, be quite immediate. Stealth would be over at that point, but yes, you could do that. But yes, is there anything else? Or... hang on a minute. Cannons need to be controlled, don't they? You know that much. You don't just point them and they fire. They have to be loaded. They have to be aimed. This thing is currently pointed up to the sky. How did it fire down? Obviously there's space for it, but how do they move it? Those pulleys, those wires, they lead up to that other area. What's there? Is there something up there that controls it somehow? You'd have to go and see, but that could be an alternative. Granted, as well, if you were higher up, maybe that would make the climb a little easier. You could rappel down rather than having to rappel up. Quite a few choices here. And of course, the biggest issue is getting anywhere in the first place, because there are an awful lot of people around here.
And to be clear, Kruger, I wasn't imagining us going up there. I was imagining us bringing up there to down here, preferably with an explosion. I don't know that there's anything up there we need to get our hands on. Our job is to break it, right?
Absolutely. That's why we're here. All right. Well, there looks to be some kind of control room or some place where this is steered from. If I can get over there, maybe I'll be able to bring it down. Get it pointed down so that we can more easily access it.
That sounds like a reasonable option. Good to check our choices first. Just see what's around a bit. There's an awful lot of them here, though.
There is. And as you're saying this, it's you, Kruger, who then notices something else. After all, you're currently doing all this behind a whole bunch of crates. You don't know what's in them, but they seem quite well packed, unfortunately. You could try opening them, but it might be a bit of a waste of time. But as you're just staying there, keeping low, you do hear something, and as you peek your head just a little, you notice there is a group of people. 3 of them. They are not Skaven. You can smell them from here. They smell of sewer, and they're moving oddly, but no, those are humans. 3 of them. They seem to be wheeling along a crate full of... You can't quite see, but it looks like books, papers, something like that. Again, it's all in a crate. And they're hauling it along and moving just past you now. They seem to be walking forwards. Maybe they're heading towards that big lift all the way at the front of you. What do you do?
This could be an opportunity, right? Opportunity to perhaps get some cover. Is there a way to board that or somehow travel with it in order to remain more stealthy? Underneath it, perhaps?
It's not that large a crate. It's more something the 3 of them are just carrying along. So you could follow with it, but you think these individuals would notice you. You can hear them saying something, though, as they're passing by.
And I wouldn't be able to pass off by simply carrying a crate as well. I wouldn't be able to pass as one of them, right? This isn't one of those things.
It would occur to you that might not be impossible. The only issue is you might have to look like them. Maybe you already do, but you could just start walking on them with a crate. You don't know what would happen, though. You might have to do some acting. They might get suspicious. But you could maybe follow behind them. Maybe you don't need to interact with them. There's a lot of maybes and ifs here, but you could try that. It might be dangerous. It might be a great plan. Sadly, that's the only thing you don't know. But it would occur to you that, well, what's 4 people in cloaks as opposed to 3? Especially maybe to the Skaven.
Indeed. Well, we could try to... Well, pretend that we are them and cloak up, try to not be visible, or just try to sneak, unless you have a better idea.
Oh, like blend in with them? That might not be a bad idea. I don't know how well I'd blend in with my big robes, but sure, maybe you would.
I just might. I look to Heinrich. What do you think?
Oh, I'm not going to lie, it feels incredibly dangerous. And if things go wrong, you would be all up there all on your own. And that is precisely why I cannot let you go all the way up there on your own. I don't know if I make as good a disguise as anyone, but I don't want you to have no one but I don't want you to be without a friend when things do go wrong.
Well, I certainly wouldn't mind the company. Why don't we grab a crate each and just try to look natural? Look like we own the place, right?
Now, of all the things that my background has prepared me for, hauling crates, that I can do. I will make a small show of flexing my boat-faring riverman muscles, and then look for the nearest heavy labor that needs performed, I suppose.
What about you, Gunnar Stark? It seems they're committed to this. It does seem logical, if you all go, that at least you'll all be together no matter what happens.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm not very happy with it. I suppose if it makes sense. No, I can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm fumbling at the wall. The whole idea of that thing, it just fills me with utter dread. My head starts spinning a little. I don't know why. I just nod and I say, yeah. You two go on. That sounds very good. I'll try and think of something from here.
All right. Yeah. I'll have you as backup.
In that case, Kruger and Heinrich, it's disguise time. Luckily for you, for this journey, you all have heavy winter clothing. So you are able to quickly put that on which does give you the appearance, at least to a bystander, of cloaked human individual. And so, you see a crate, not looking too heavy, you're not sure what's in it. Pick it up, and you both just walk out. Now, I would like you both to make stealth rolls. But luckily for you, there will be no difficulty, because this area is extremely noisy.
Well, that is fortuitous then. I get 15 under 42s. That's 3 degrees of success.
This will be the first point of fortune I spent, because I rolled a 79 over 42, and that does not seem like the right time for this to go wrong. But the second is better. It's 40 under 42, so no degrees of success, but a success all the same.
Then the pair of you step out, slowly, and then just begin slowly walking behind these individuals. Would I be right in assuming, Kruger, that you don't actually want to catch up to them, of course? Just follow them, maybe like 10 paces behind.
Yeah, something like that. You know, make it look natural, but don't actually get close enough that they would look at us. You know, they don't want to draw any attention. Just kind of want to fit in.
Then that's what you do. And then you're out. Walking. This is not a pleasant experience, Kruger and Heinrich. You are now surrounded by enemies. But you're walking along. At one point, suddenly, one of these armoured Skaven walks by and looks at you, snarls, and then ignores you. It's working, Kruger. The Skaven haven't noticed you, or they have, but they don't seem bothered.
Who would be crazy enough to do something like this, right? And, I mean, there's plenty of enslaved folks around here, right? So, perhaps we're just that, if they can even tell that we are, well, what we are.
How are you feeling, Heinrich? This is out of your... How are you feeling, Heinrich? This is not something you normally do.
Deeply uncomfortable. For one, I know that this is not my skill set, and that initial hitch of almost revealing myself and only being able to pull it together with a little bit of fortune has me even more on edge. To say nothing of the fact that it feels very not me. There's that itch of every time I make eye contact with someone, my instinct is to reach for my pistol and shoot first, but just the eyes forward. If nothing else, staring directly at the back of Kruger does make me appear more like like one of the workers here, not being too curious.
Indeed. And so you follow. You're now in the middle of this great chamber, getting closer to this large lift that goes up to this strange floor above you. You're getting a bit of a better look now, Kruger. It's almost as if you think you can see stonework that implies there was once a ceiling here. Have they just demolished an entire ceiling to make way for their scaffolding? You think so. You don't think the dwarves would have had this area be quite so open to the elements. You can start to hear some of their conversation, the 3 individuals in front of you, although it is a bit muffled by all the noise. Yes, well, one more delivery, that's it. Are you sure? I still think that... Were you going to Cop Grant orders? We had one more delivery, one more bunch of book rubbish. I know, but do they still need it? I'm not... You know what happened? We had to move out of Middenheim, and now everything's one more go, and then we can finally head back. I know, but it's a bit... Oh, okay, like, shut up. Meanwhile, Gurna Stark, your friends are now out there, in the open. They have been noticed several times, but the Skaven do not seem to care. The humans haven't looked behind them yet, although you do wonder what's going to happen when everyone gets to the lift. What are you doing?
As it seems to be working, I first just think to myself that I'm such a coward. I'm supposed to be able to blend in into places, but not like this. I'm not among all. I've always thought that once I got my disguise and everything that I was supposed to bring with me to fit into any kind of circumstance, really. It wasn't this. I look around the room and I look at what I brought with me. It's just this cinder blast grenade. if worst comes to worst, I wonder if I can cram it down some part of this weapon that would be vulnerable to an explosion. I try to look over there again and see if there was any opening or anything else that I could put it into if the worst comes to worst.
The issue is it is such a gigantic weapon. I mean, yes, there is that opening on the front, but that is quite far up in the sky from where you are, at least 50, 60, 70 feet. Of course, there are also all the areas around it, though. You could reach those. You would just have to enter that area, walk past those vats, get past the guards, if that's what they are, or technicians, you're not sure. You could even get to those two big vats that are next to it on the left and right. They certainly look important.
Okay. Well, at least I have some places I could try and make it to. But I'm a bit stumped. I don't actually know what I would do here. I feel like I have to just wait and see if there's anything I can help with.
One thing, though, as you're looking up, you notice this strange metallic scaffolding above you is a little see-through. You can see things. There's evidence of stuff up there. And you think you can suddenly see one Skaven walking about, above you, of course. Well, that could be useful. After all, if you have visuals, some of your spells are quite useful as long as you can see where you're going.
Yeah, but I'd also have to do a loud incantation. It's not like I can whisper anything and have hopes of grab a hold of Ulgo with that.
True, but then again, it is extremely noisy in here. You can barely hear yourself thinking with all the clanging and banging.
That is true. That is true. Yes, even if I did say it quite loud, they might not hear it. Right. Well, maybe that's what I could do. I'll start keeping watch then, and I'll see when it appears to be clear up there, to see if there's a way for me then to use my bridge of shadows to get up there, hopefully when no one else would see that particular spot. It is middle of the night, after all.
It's true. The area is well lit, but not well lit in a human sense. Well lit in that this horrible green glow is lighting up everything.
Yeah. But it's coming from here, this room, right? So if I appear up there, it would just be against a dark night sky.
To a point, you can see some light sources up there. There is something above you. There is something on this floor, you think to yourself. This final floor.
Well, alright. As they're then moving towards this lift.
Yes.
Maybe if I can get there, through another way. There probably will be a bit of attention drawn to them as the lift comes up there. Maybe that'll be the time for me to try and speed myself on my way.
That could work. Kruger and Heinrich, closer to the lift. Closer and closer. Finally, the three people in front of you reach it. They step onto it, look over some levers, and you can tell what's going to happen next, Kruger. They're going to pull a lever and the lift will start going up. The issue with that is you're not currently on the lift. You're 10 paces behind them. What do you do?
Well, see if we can maybe then pick up the pace. If we let this one pass, then, well, there's a risk someone else will come and find us as we're waiting for the lift to come back down, right?
Exactly. Now or never. If you want, both of you can make a quick rush forward. But when you do, you will need to make a stealth test at -10.
That's what we'll have to do. I'll nod to Heinrich, say, pick up the pace. And then I'll rush forward then.
All right on your heels. A better roll this time, 29 under 42, so 2 levels of success.
I'll have to use a point of fortune, but when I do that, I get 17 under 42, so that's 3 degrees of success.
But that is very good. I would like the two of you to tell me, how do you manage to quickly board this lift that begins to go upwards and manage not to be noticed by 3 other people on the same lift? What happened? You tell me.
Well, at least in Heinrich's case, I feel like I'm going to take advantage of the fact that no one is paying attention, not only to each other, but also to the horrors of this workplace. Like all this open machinery, all these gears and chains. It's hundreds of injuries have to happen every single day. And if one of the captives here goes missing or ends up crushed, well, that's just how it be. So in loading the crate that I'm holding onto the machinery, if I'm not doing it right, and I just happen to linger there a little too long, it would not surprise me at all if the other people watching were like, oh, well, there goes another one. And that's the opportunity that I could use to duck behind something or entirely obfuscate myself for the ride up.
That's certainly what you hope for. And as the pair of you get onto the lift, it seems to happen. One of the individuals looks like they're almost about to turn their head, but then the other, as you can see now, you think they're a woman, just sort of hits them a little and says, "Focus, just focus." And the lift starts going up. And now you're in a lift, slowly grinding upwards to this next floor. Kruger, you're now standing about 5 or 4 feet away from 3 individuals. You praise Sigmar that somehow they aren't looking at you, because you think you'd be in an awful lot of trouble. Instead, they continue their speech, pouring at the thing and saying, "Anyway, just drop this off and then we can get out of here."
Indeed, yes, I do pray for this to go well. And I'll just see then if they are so busy, if they are so focused on getting this stuff done quickly, if we can just remain focused on our task and simply do what is expected of someone in our position, perhaps then we can remain invisible, even if we are out in the open like this.
Certainly. Gurner, your friends are now ascending a lift. You have no idea how they have not been noticed. Maybe the gods are on your side. They're now going up, ascending to this next floor. What do you do?
How crafty. Well, very good. Probably was a good idea that I didn't go with him. One more person might have just tipped our edge. I try and see through the grate there. Are there any other, creatures then moving about? I was trying to figure out when would be a good time for me to...
Make a perception check.
That is a 36 under 46. So 1 degree. Success.
Well done. Something up there moves, and you think you can just hear, again it's hard to hear, but you can kind of just hear the sound of metal up there versus metal down here. Something's clanking about. Maybe now it's moving in the direction of that lift. Something's moved away. Yes. Maybe now there's an opening. You won't know for sure until you're up there. There's that sense of dread in you. But if there was ever a time, maybe it's now.
Right, time to see this through. At least, not having to change the disguise, I still have my robes and all the advantages that brings in trying to harness Ulgo here. Is it easy to harness Ulgo here? Because that's the question.
Yes, Ulgo is certainly in the air here. You are, after all, beneath a night sky.
Alright, brilliant. Now the other question is am I in the vicinity of a corrupting influence while I'm making this channeling test?
Luckily, no. You can feel the energy all around you, but it does feel more concentrated in that direction of the nightmarish machine. Those vats. Here, it doesn't feel so bad.
Not like I would know what it would mean if I used my magic closer to that. But with me being able to even taste it from here, well, it's probably a good idea that I am where I am. And I start then to channel the grey wind. Oh, and that's a 10 under 50, so I'll bring that casting number right down to 0. So I am ready to cast the spell.
Excellent. And a 10 is not a double. That's fine, yes. So please cast your spell.
Alright, that's a 96. I think I'm going to try and spend a point of fortune here. It's like the tendrils of shadow is just about to wheel out of my control. I just see them disappear there. I see Heinrich and my stomach just jumps and... Well, it is better, but unfortunately just 1 point better, so I roll a 95.
Sadly, not a success. Your spell is taking time to form. I will say that it will be successful in a moment, but not immediately, unfortunately. It'll take a bit longer than you were expecting. Meanwhile, Heinrich and Kruger. The lift finally comes to the top. You are technically now on a new floor. You're actually quite far up. You've maybe gone about 50 feet into the air, so everything now is beneath you, below you. You can see the workshops and that base of the cannon. The cannon itself still continues to go up quite high, and now, of course, you can see open sky. You can even just about see a little bit of, well, the rest of the Middle Mountains from here. Just a little. It occurs to you that maybe that's how this was able to fire on the picket line. It probably can, with a bit of turning. Aim in that direction, and then where you are in the mountains, it makes sense for this thing to be able to fire downwards. A little. But it would still need to be moved to do that. And you do notice, Kruger, that it is currently not pointed remotely in the right direction. It's currently pointed almost as far up as possible. It's odd. And you, Heinrich, can see now in the night sky the Chaos Moon more sleep, filling it. Can't be that big. It wasn't that big before, was it? It seems gigantic. Its smile is on you.
How many ratmen are around us immediately? Is this more or less or equally populated than the floor below?
Immediately, you look to your right. There's some sort of workshop to the right. Lots of crates, shelves, giant maps, things hanging up on string. A person's there, but they're not a rat person. Okay, two there, halberds. And then you look to your right, currently, your current right, as you come up. And in that direction, two more. And, oh, a very, very large rat. About the same size as that creature you fought before. This one, though, isn't charging at you with mechanical things on its back and a giant strange weapon in its hands. This one is sitting on the floor. It has 3 eyes, and it's currently just scratching itself. It seems to be attached to something by a long chain. It's right next to some sort of large area with lots of levers and wires and boxes. So that's to the right. And to the left, 2 more. And of course your 3 friends, who are now starting to head in the direction of the left.
Quick glance to Kruger. Do we play along, or is this the part where we do what we do?
So, looking at all this, we wanted to somehow see if we could control this weapon, right? To get it to a position where we might be able to do something against it. Those controls, do we see anything around here that might be that, or is this all crate related?
So looking to your right, maybe that thing with those levers. That does something, maybe, you don't know, but maybe. It's certainly got lots of things attached to it. That's just next to the 2 individuals with halberds and the large ogre being.
Yes, it certainly is well guarded. I look around, I try to see, is there a way to create some kind of diversion or something that might get them away from their posts?
Well, nothing to hand, but any form of distraction would certainly alert people at this level, you think? A bomb going off, a gun going off, something falling somewhere? The 3 individuals next to you are starting to walk in the direction of those other 2 rats, and someone else. Who is that? There's someone else. They look a little unusual, but again, you can't quite see them.
Well, I'm from the Riverlands. Everyone here looks unusual.
Certainly, but they don't look like a rat man, and they don't look like a cloaked figure. You think you hear a clanking of chains. They're sort of in the middle of that area with all these papers and boxes and things. It looks a bit like... It almost looks a little bit like what you saw at Castle Wittgenstein, or what you saw in the basement of that place you were a guest of very recently, Kruger. So, yes, you are in a very dangerous situation, but you are still, at this moment in time, apparently completely unnoticed.
I'll look to Heinrich then. I'm gonna have to try to find some way of interacting with that thing over there, the one with the levers and everything. That must be the thing that's controlling the weapon, right? So, can we get them to move, or is there a way we could interact with this without them noticing it? The situation is such that it would be impossible to interact with the panel without them noticing, right? They're that close.
You might, on a very hard stealth check, be able to time things, maybe roll over there, literally crawl on the floor. Maybe you could just get to it really quickly and be there. You could certainly get there, maybe. And the question might, of course, be what happens immediately after. But maybe you could get there. Highly dangerous. This might be the most dangerous stealth roll you ever made.
Would it be easier if there were a distraction?
Yes.
Yes. Heinrich, do you think you can create some kind of distraction, and I'll stealth my way over there and see if I can do something about those controls?
I think as you say that, you just see a very familiar smile curling up one side of Heinrich's face and that twinkle in his eye. And it's the one that says, "I've got this. Don't ask any questions." And then I will take my crate of God knows what, walking towards the workshop to deliver it with the other two. And then in the middle of that room, in the way that creates the most noise and attention possible, I'm going to intentionally stumble and dump the contents of my crate into like the nearest table and make a show, just knocking things over, being a huge, awful klutz about it. And hopefully that explosion of activity will be enough for Kruger to know that it's his turn to do his job.
And so you dive forwards, Heinrich, ready to begin your distraction. One thing you know for certain, stealth may very soon finally be over. But maybe you've done enough. We will have to see.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the legendary campaign The Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition, published by Cubicle 7. In this fourth part of the series, we are tackling The Horned Rat. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music was made by Flowers for Body Snatchers, Wordclock, Metatron Omega, Aegir Sonus, Apocryphus, Halgrath, and Northumbria, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Doug Thomson, Lily, and Mike Parker for their generous support. We would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to our Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay bonus campaign, Rough Nights and Hard Days, as well as bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Call of Cthulhu there. On top of that, we also offer early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play some Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check it out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that Skaven are definitely not real, and even if they were, the Emperor would have already dealt with that threat.